Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. So today we have 3 major bits of Star Wars movie news, and we're going to begin with Shawn Levy. Just days after he teased that his Star Wars story is, quote, in very active development, which suggests it could go into production soon, he's now provided another tease. Talking with Josh Horowitz, the Deadpool and Wolverine director reveals that his Star Wars story is not attached in any way to the Skywalker saga in the main films. It's not a trilogy movie either, and is 100% a standalone. Now in my opinion this is very reassuring news, because I very much get Rogue One vibes from the way he described his approach, and he goes on to reveal that in talks with Lucasfilm, he was forced to answer what he says was a very difficult question, the nature of what Star Wars meant to him, and the kind of Star Wars story he resonated with most. And here's what really blew my mind. For Shawn Levy, that meant rejecting the Skywalkers, and rejecting Lucasfilm's approach with some of the other movies, continuing to make spin-offs, or in the case of the one by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, a continuation of the sequel trilogy. Shawn wanted none of that. No Skywalkers, he wanted to do something that was never done before. Finally, some proper creativity. And this is just a bit of speculation, it sounds like it might be an Underworld kind of movie, taking notes from the cancelled Del Toro Jabba the Hutt project, and I can just imagine scum, villainy, aliens, droids, you name it. I don't think he wants to touch Force sensitives though, and a Star Wars movie of this nature, which is a standalone, means it's a one and done. So he's going to be able to give all of his creativity, his time and attention to one installment, and not be tied down to continuing a new trilogy or setting one up, and not being beholden to existing characters. And he goes on to give an absolutely accurate and based take. He says, quote, "There's only so many times that Star Wars movies can revisit the same section of the timeline, because I don't want to do a Star Wars film that is redundant to others, nor am I interested in doing one that has to serve another movie. I really wanted to craft something that felt organic, both in tone and characters. And to be honest, the way I'm looking at this is the most amazing news we could have gotten for this project. And I'm hoping it goes down as an Andor level Star Wars story, in this case a solid piece of cinema, not TV show, but maybe as iconic as the likes of Rogue One. And even if it's on the level of something like Solo, I think we're in for a fun Star Wars movie. And that's the impression I get from Shawn, that he wants to give us something truly spicy and invigorating, something the franchise hasn't done before. If you want to do aliens, scum and villainy, then please work with the gritty Star Wars underworlds. There is so much potential there. And not just what's been explored in War of the Bounty Hunters and video games like Star Wars Outlaws. I'm really reassured by Shawn Levy's interview and the fact he's given it so much thought, that he saw what Star Wars has been doing and realised, you know what, it's time for a change. So that is the first piece of Star Wars movie news, and now we have a small update for Daisy Ridley. Some pretty tragic news. She's been diagnosed unfortunately with Graves' disease. It's really heartbreaking to hear the symptoms she's gone through and the pain, the anguish, both physical and emotional, and it's recontextualized the way she sees training for roles. But she's not gonna stop. She did give an update on the new Jedi Order Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy film. She mentions how for Jedi training both in the sequel trilogy and for the upcoming film, she relies on arm workouts, and how going forward, her exercises are going to be tailored in a way that she can, quote, find the balance, find where her tolerance ends. It's so heartbreaking hearing what Daisy went through, fighting this alone, and this is not the first time she's spoken about her health like this. So I wish her all the best, and I'm absolutely rooting for her when she returns as Rey. I think it's safe to say we will get some kind of update in the near future, whether it's at D23 or somewhere else. The project does seem like it's going to go into production sometime in 2025. And we just found out during Disney's Q3 earnings call, they still want 2 movies in 2026. So it's definitely going to be The Mandalorian and Grogu, but is the second one going to be the new Jedi Order? Now a major bit of news that just released is that Disney Plus turned a quarterly profit in streaming for the very first time. Can you believe it's already been 5 years since they launched the service? Well, they announced during their earnings call they finally turned a profit. Via The Hollywood Reporter, Bob Iger announced Disney Plus had a revenue of $6.4 billion in the last quarter. There has been apparently a bit of an uptick in subscribers, and this is seen as a massive victory for the House of Mouse, especially as we go into D23 tomorrow. Considering there isn't an enormous amount of new enticing programming compared to the likes of Netflix and other services, this is quite the victory lap for Iger. And one theory is that many families decided to sign up just to see Inside Out, as they await the sequel dropping on the service. As we know, Inside Out 2 was a massive success. It's now the highest grossing animated film of all time. Now in terms of The Acolyte, while it's their most recent flagship title, viewership and engagement according to US collected data was not as strong as Lucasfilm or Disney would have hoped. This is where the international component might have come in. Some countries such as France, South Korea, and the UK did have more of a boost. Bob Iger was targeting Q4 as the time they turn a profit, but it appears as though they've accomplished the goal 1 quarter early. Now Bob Iger's focus has been, let's get quality Star Wars movies back in cinemas less frequently, and this was mainly due to the streaming side not having the profitability Disney had hoped. But now it seems like things are taking a turn. Maybe this is going to re-incentivize Iger to rethink how he wants to do the future of Star Wars. It was originally going to be less TV shows, more movies, but could this encourage him to maybe stick with frequent Star Wars shows on the streaming service? I guess tomorrow is where we're going to get an update. But as I stated, my dear friends, Disney and Lucasfilm are hoping for 2 Star Wars movies in 2026, and a third releasing in 2027. Is it doable? And is this approach, which some have said is oversaturation, going to translate to box office success? Are what we call normies, casual fans, gonna want to go back and see a Star Wars movie year after year? Could it dilute the special nature of the Star Wars experience? But it should be said, the fact Disney is still aiming for its original release years indicates maybe some significant progress has been made, not just on The Mandalorian and Grogu, but like we spoke about maybe the Shawn Levy film, and despite Daisy Ridley still not having read a script, there might be plans for production already in place, and this weekend we're gonna find out for sure what is going ahead and when. Now speaking of streaming on Disney+, this is gonna really surprise you. There is one Star Wars project which no one talks about because I guess it's not the adult age demographic that is doing higher numbers than Disney and Lucasfilm expected. Young Jedi Adventures Season 2 is coming in just a few days' time, and according to analytics, it's seen a surge of interest and viewership in the last 30 days. The preschool-aimed High Republic animated show is 7.9 times more in demand than other shows it's competing with. It's nowhere near the likes of Bluey. However, it seems to be vibing with Star Wars fans that have children, and that's one of the main reasons it's been renewed. Who would have thought? And I recently watched one of the clips, one of the teasers for the upcoming 2nd season, and it's pretty surprisingly packed with interesting lore. We learn a little bit about nub species. I did finish watching season 1, and while it's not as serious as something like the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, I personally think it's worth watching. But with that said, my dear friends, share your thoughts on all of the news we spoke about in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.